an integer variable that's going to hold how many days the user worked that week. So notice again, we see static already being highlighted here because we're more than likely going to be using this variable in our method, and we need the variable to be static. So static int, and we're going to say days worked, right? And we'll initialize that value to 0. So the first thing we need to do from the user is we need to get the users, have the user let us know how many days they worked that week, so that we can build an array, based upon the user's input, and then populate that array based upon the user's input. So first, let's ask the user how many days they worked this week. So we know we need console.writeLine, how many days did you work this week? So then, of course, we go ahead and we put our days worked. Whatever the user enters, we want to convert that into an integer value. Wrap around it, and then we say console.readLine. So now we want to also add an if statement to verify that the user has actually entered a value between 1 and 7. So we say if, and we need a condition. As a reminder, conditions are going to be enclosed in parentheses. So we say if days worked is greater than 0, and got to see Visual Basic. And actually, I think we need to put this in its own set of parentheses. So we'll say that's an or, sorry. And days worked is less than 8. We'll say 8. Because it can be 7. Then we'll do something, right? Put all of this around one parenthesis. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create an array to hold their values of the days they work if they actually did correct, if they entered their correct value. So we can say double weekly pay equals new double, and we're going to use the values that they entered. So now this array is created. This array is created, and let's go ahead and add our braces here. This array is created based upon how many days the user entered. So once we go ahead and create our array, we need to create a for loop that will allow us to input the values into the array. So we'll say for int I equals 0, of course, and I is going to be less than the days worked here, so that's how big your array is. And then we're going to say I plus plus. Put our braces, and now we can have the loop run through and populate, ask the user what the amount of money they made for that day, and we can populate the array using the for loop. So we'll say weekly pay, which is the name of our array. We'll say I because we know this is the value that's allowing us to access the elements of our array. So we'll say I equals console.read, and of course this needs to be converted to double. It says read line. It's important that you make sure that you have console.readLine and not read. Just notice I have that error there, because if you only have console.read, it's only going to read that first character, and you want it to read the entire line. So if you happen to have made that mistake based on me, I apologize. Please make sure you went up to this line of code and make sure that says console.readLine. Okay, and also we should have actually asked the user, or keep forgetting to ask them or tell them what we want them to enter. So we're going to say, please enter the amount you made on day. And we're going to say plus I. Now, one thing about saying plus I here is that, we know already that I is going to start on 0. And we don't really want it to say what you made on day 0. We really want it to say day 1. Alright, so for the sake of this part, I'm actually going to put I in parentheses here. And then I'm just going to say I plus 1. So it doesn't change the value of I for the loop, but for the user in regards to what they're entering, it does change. So we're going to create a couple more variables here. These variables are going to be used to hold the tax amount, gross amount, and net amount. So we will say first let's do our constant value. There's a reminder, constant values or constant variables are variables whose values cannot change. So I'll put tax. It's going to be constant, and it's going to be of the double data type. We'll make the tax value 35, 35% tax. And we'll make a few more variables. Double to hold the gross and net and total taxes. Okay. So for gross, we'll configure that. Remember, gross is going to be the total amount of money that we made during that week. So we're just going to take the name of our array, and we can easily just say weekly pay, which is our array name, and put .sum, because since it is a numeric array, we can use the sum method on it. In order for us to find out what our net is first calculate how much the total taxes are. We'll say we had to pay, of course, 35% of what we made taxes. So that's what our total taxes are. And then, of course, our net would be our gross minus what the total taxes. So next we want to display. So now let's go ahead and display your total values. So we will console and we will say you worked. Let me show you this real fast. This is how you can format your output using parameters with the right line. So let's say you worked, and we're going to put some data there. So the curly braces and the 0 is pretty much going to identify which parameter of data goes here. So first we want to say, of course, you work 0 days, and so we'll have days here. Oops, there we go. Next, we want the user to know how much the total amount they earned. And here, this is going to be a parameter. And we'll also say total amount of taxes paid was, it's going to be a parameter. And we'll also tell them after paying taxes, your paycheck amount was, and this is going to be a parameter. And now we can say what our parameters are going to be. So the first one here, it says you work, it's 0 days. So this will want 0 parameter to represent the days worked. The next one says total amount earned was 1. So we know that we want the parameter, or the second parameter, index value of 1, to represent the gross amount. Next one, of course, is total amount of taxes paid. We would want this one to represent the total taxes. And then lastly, we want the paycheck amount, which would be net. Now, when these values are displayed, if you just display them as they are, they're just going to have some ugly number with a dot, the decimal point, and it's just not going to be in proper format. So I would encourage you to go ahead and convert your numeric values to string format and to a string data type, so you can format them more appropriately, adding a number sign and make sure you only have 2 decimal places and things like that. So we're going to format all of our values to, oh, not this one, sorry, this one is days worked. We don't need to format that one to anything. We just want that value. But for gross, this one is going to be a dollar amount. So we do want to format it to string. And then we're going to say dollar amount, $, pound, 00. So that way that one looks like this. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a lazy programmer here and do the same thing to my other values here. Alright. That looks good. So now let's run it. How many days did you work this week? Let's say we worked 3. The first day you made $135.78. We have an error. So you worked 3 days, but it only looped through 1 time. Let's see what we have done wrong here. I equals 0, I equals that. Nope, we should not have all of this inside of our for loop. Let's take all this out. My apologies, I didn't realize we were typing in there. We gotta get out of that for loop, or it's only going to produce our stuff time. Now, let's make sure that when we start setting our variable or constant value for our tax, that we are outside of our for loop. So let's try that again. How many days did you work? Let's say 3. Please enter the amount you made on day 1, $345.67. Please enter the amount you made on day 2, $278.90. Please enter the amount you made on day 3, $199.32. You worked 3 days. Total amount earned was $823.89. Total, smooth this over some. Why can't I move that way? Gotta fix that. Total amount of taxes paid was $288.36. After paying taxes, your paycheck amount was $535.53. You enter, and your program ends.